My husband deceived me regarding the change of houses, and then clandestinely bestowed the villa upon his goddess. Subsequently, when we were signing the divorce agreement, he wept with bloodshot eyes, exclaiming, "Wife, I have truly erred." I patted his shoulder and said, "Stand upright and disclose the truth. It is merely bankruptcy. Wife, could we remarry?" Regrettably, I have already remarried another. My husband purchased for me a capacious flat spanning 280 square meters. I ecstatically posted on WeChat moments to express my affection. Whilst I was replying to the envious messages of my friends, my bosom friend dialed my number. "Cece, are you aware that Goddess Gutingfei has returned? Whilst I was engaged in my affairs just now, I espied that your husband had gifted her the villa in which you formerly resided." My excitement instantaneously waned. This villa was the abode where Gutingfei and I had dwelt for a full 3 years. I had personally overseen the interior decoration and meticulously selected the furniture. I had even tended to the garden with my own hands. Gutingfei could not have been oblivious to the extent of my fondness for this house. However, he cajoled me by stating that the new community was a school district property and would prove convenient for the children's future studies. In the end, he had merely made room for his goddess. I was seething with rage. As soon as I arrived at the villa, I beheld Gutingfei's vehicle parked in the courtyard. I did not hasten inside but called him first. The phone rang for an extended duration before it was answered. "Darling, are you also at the villa? What a fortuitous coincidence. I have come hither to retrieve something. Could you open the door for me?" "Wait for me momentarily," Gutingfei replied in a flustered manner. After I had awaited at the entrance for half an hour, Gutingfei finally opened the door. His handsome countenance was of the abstinent style that I had always favored. I advanced, grasped his tie and smiled sardonically. "Why is the collar of your shirt sullied?" There were traces of foundation upon it. I could surmise that the goddess's makeup had become smudged. Just like my currently shattered heart, it was fragmented and mortified. The goddess could weep because she was proficient in acting. I would not cry, for what I required was the ability to handle matters with equanimity. Gutingfei impeded my entry and said, "Miaoling encountered some predicaments and returned to China. I sold this house to her. What is it that you seek? I shall retrieve it." "What? You do not even deign to dissemble? You simply lay your cards on the table? Sold? You are deceiving a child. The price of this house is not trifling. Could Lu Miaoling afford it? Gutingfei, let us divorce. I have no inclination to marry another." I fled and Gutingfei pursued me. As a result, Gutingfei was knocked aside. Lu Miaoling, who had been within the villa, rushed out and insisted on accompanying me in the ambulance. In the vehicle, Gutingfei extended his hand in a dazed state. I pressed upon his wound, and he grasped Lu Miaoling's hand. He shrieked directly. I smiled apologetically at the medical staff. "My apologies for the blunder. Please furnish me with some additional gauze." Lu Miaoling is Gutingfei's goddess and also his childhood sweetheart. She is a renowned star in the opera house. She wed the prince of a listed group prior to attaining the age of 25. Gutingfei and I were college classmates, and we were the sort of individuals who did not even exchange greetings when we encountered each other. The next time we met, he had become inebriated due to his unrequited love and had inadvertently ordered a carpool, sharing the fare with me. He was drunk and embraced me, weeping. I had no alternative but to escort him home. After dating for half a year, Gutingfei proposed to me, stating that he desired to establish a family with me. Now he was clasping her hand. The doctor also presented the notice to Lu Miaoling. Lu Miaoling smiled coyly at me. "Xinqian, you ought to come." Well, the mistress was affording the wife an opportunity. I inscribed my name with a smile and then inquired of Lu Miaoling, "Miss Lu, in what capacity do you intend to remain? It is a pity that in New China, concubines are not permitted. Otherwise, I could permit you to continue to attend to Tungfei." Lu Miaoling departed with teary eyes and then returned on the morrow. The moment Gutingfei regained consciousness, Lu Miaoling rushed forward and lavished great care upon him, and I was silently recording the video beside him. "Gutingfei, are you well? It is all my fault. Had you not been taking care of me, I would not have made matters so arduous for you. Or perhaps I should depart." Gutingfei exclaimed excitedly. "No, you cannot leave. If you return, what if your husband assaults you again? Cece is an exceedingly kind woman. She will surely comprehend you. I am merely apprehensive that you will sustain injury. I shall elucidate the matter clearly to Cece." I burst into laughter beside him. It was so ludicrous. I had stood there for such an extended period, yet Gutingfei had failed to notice. He still bestowed upon me the label of a good person? Did he believe me to be deceased? I do not understand, Gutingfei. I, Xunqian, have explicitly informed you in your presence that I do not understand at all. You are unworthy of making my decisions, and you cannot sell our matrimonial home without consulting me. I rolled my eyes and recorded the video before him without any compunction. These were all evidence for instituting divorce proceedings in the future, and I had to preserve them meticulously. And now I would not be as solicitous about Gutingfei, as when he had been hospitalized for a stomach ailment previously. Now he was sullied. Even if one could not perceive the chocolate smeared with dog feces, I could not swallow it. Gutingfei finally located me. He had also finally discovered me, the one who had obeyed him in all matters and had been willing to be a full-time wife at home. There had been occasions when I had lost my temper. Cece, do not be wrathful. I simply could not bear to witness meowing without a home. I thought you were so benevolent that you would surely concur. Huh. I laughed uproariously, advanced, and regarded Gutingfei with frigid eyes. Tongue, that is the home that I have tended to for 3 years. It is not your weapon to play the hero. Lu Miaoling is a national first-class dancer. If she encounters difficulties, she could seek recourse from their troop, the Women's Federation. She could consult a lawyer or approach the police. However, she ought not to approach you, a married man. Very well, it would be discourteous to say more. I am recording a video. Our relationship will conclude after the divorce cooling-off period. It will not impede your splendid second marriage, the anticipation of being a savior, and the first love that you have perpetually yearned for. Farewell. I spoke harshly. After departing from the hospital, I proceeded directly to my bosom friend's abode and imbibed copiously. After hearing my account, my friend patted my shoulder and said, Miaoling is indeed pitiable. I have heard that she will be evicted from her house. However, I have investigated and discovered that she already possessed 3 houses in her name prior to marriage. How could she truly be without a home? I am cognizant of that. It was Gu Tingfei who provided for her, and thus it is even more repugnant, and he is eager to divorce. I had believed that I had married true love, but true love could not ultimately prevail over the goddess who descended from the heavens. In order for Gu Tingfei to dine well, I relinquished my employment and prepared 3 meals daily for him. If he did not return, I would convey the food to his company. Each year, I was the sole individual responsible for arranging the birthdays of my in-laws, and Gu Tingfei merely had to make an appearance. I had truly believed that Gu Tingfei had forsaken his secret love and had chosen me. However, now Lu Miaoling had not even shared an actual relationship with him, yet Gu Tingfei had paid for the wedding house. Lu Miaoling had merely crooked her finger and shed a tear, which had proven more efficacious than my 3 years of arduous toil. Are you going to seek her out? Are you simply going to capitulate in this manner? I shall go and assist you in venting your spleen. My bosom friend Daodu grasped me and desired to assist me. I shook my head. No, I merely desire a swift divorce at present. Unexpectedly, Gu Tingfei is not astute and believes that everyone in the world should be as love-struck as he. He hastened to me, grasped my hand and said sincerely, Cici, your uncle's group has entered into a cooperation with Miaoling's husband's family. Now the other party has been pestering Miaoling and refusing to divorce. Could you implore your family to devise a solution? I regarded him coldly, wondering if he had undergone cranial surgery on behalf of Lu Miaoling and had discarded his brain. What we are discussing today is the divorce agreement and the division of property. Although what Gu Tengfei had done had wounded and disgusted me, I aspired to be a person of dignity. He was willing to partake of excrement, and I had no desire to kiss him. It was preferable to separate and divorce. However, I had not anticipated that Gu Tengfei would attempt to feed me a mouthful of feces with a spoon. Husband and wife are supposed to share weal and woe, but this was not the appropriate way to share. Let us discuss the divorce after we have resolved Miaoling's perilous situation. Is that acceptable? Cici, you were previously so kind-hearted and were willing to lend a helping hand when you beheld me inebriated. Now, could you bear to witness Miaoling being beaten and suffering? Gu Tengfei's countenance was suffused with righteousness. I also nodded gravely. Of course I could witness it. If you had a live broadcast of Lu Miaoling being beaten at present, regardless of whether you asked me to sit, walk, or lie down to watch it, I could do so. For a woman who had leaned upon my man's shoulder and resided in my wedding chamber when difficulties arose, how could I not witness her being beaten? To bestow sympathy upon the mistress? Then I should consult a neurologist. I patted Gu Tengfei's shoulder and presented him with the divorce agreement. Sign it, and I shall apply. There is still a cooling-off period. I am apprehensive that Lu Miaoling's child will be unable to register for the birth certificate by then. Nothing untoward occurred between Miaoling and me, Cici. Could you cease overthinking? Gu Tengfei rose anxiously and extended his hand to embrace me. I directly rebuffed him. It still did not occur? I am inquiring of you, did she lean upon your arms? Did you wipe away her tears? Did you remain in the room together at night? Did you cover her with a blanket? Gu Tengfei was completely dumbfounded and rendered speechless. He seemed to be doubting that I had installed a surveillance camera within the house. However, I had not done so. I had merely apprised Gu Tengfei of his fantasies regarding the goddess. These matters were the most romantic episodes that I had inadvertently discovered in his diary penned during his youthful and frivolous days. He had not engaged in such acts with me. However, he had done so with Lu Miaoling. Gu Tengfei muttered for an extended period before finally mustering the courage. If I sign this, would you be willing to assist Miaoling with this matter? I sneered. Gu Tengfei, you are truly magnanimous. To utilize one's own marriage to assist Lu Miaoling in obtaining a divorce. Was my love so base that it would sink into the dust? I was disinclined to argue with him and squander time. I nodded. Very well, as long as you sign it, I shall inform my uncle. Gu Tengfei picked up the pen and slowly inscribed his name. I took the application and submitted it. I returned home to seek my uncle. I did not broach the topic of divorce but merely stated that Lu Miaoling had implored Gu Tengfei. My uncle accepted my Wangzai milk with a solemn countenance and said gravely, "How dare you young couple involve yourselves in her affairs? Hasten to delete her contact information." I tilted my head and regarded my uncle with a puzzled expression. Not many people are aware of this. Since you do not comprehend, I shall disclose the truth to you. This Lu Miaoling journeyed to Macau to gamble, and lost 300 million. What an enormous sum. The goddess has a penchant for gambling. No wonder the wealthy dare not retain her. Since I had discovered that Gu Tengfei had engaged in an affair, my hitherto calm mind had suddenly exploded. I sprang up. My husband and I share property. It was tolerable to lose love and marriage. However, if Gu Tengfei had bestowed the money upon Lu Miaoling, I desired to slay him. I called the accountant of Gu Tengfei's company. Although I had not visited the company in recent years, I had grown up observing my family manage funds. It was impossible for me to lack the concept of financial management. I could utilize the money or await Gutingfei to earn it gradually. However, as the mistress of the household, I must also be cognizant of the amount of money in my coffers. I called the accountant who had been bribed with 2 bags and merely inquired about the total amount of money that had been transferred out recently and the remaining balance on the company's books. The accountant promptly checked the accounts for me and informed me, "Cece, has not the money transferred out been sufficient? There is not an abundance of money remaining on the company's books. It is difficult to ascertain. Sister, inform me first, how much money has been transferred out in total?" The boss transferred approximately 8 million from the company. My head ached upon hearing this. 8 million was not my entire fortune. However, when I learned that Gutingfei had given Lu Miaoling such a substantial sum yet still claimed to be assisting, I was completely convinced. Truly, the logic of the love-struck mind is invincible. If he had admitted that the money was used to maintain a woman, I would have deemed him forthright. However, now Gutingfei claimed that he would utilize the money to assist Lu Miaoling, and thus the money would be squandered without return. If you require to transfer money again, inform me. After hanging up the accountant's phone, I located a phone number from the blacklist and dialed it. The phone rang but once and was answered. "Hello, how are you?" "Ouyang Ting. It is I, Xin Qian. I desire to converse with you regarding your ex-wife and the husband I am on the verge of divorcing." "Wait a moment." Ouyang Ting should have been in a meeting or engaged in some other activity. I heard him announce that the meeting was proceeding and instructed the secretary to take notes. Then there were footsteps and soon I heard him address me. "That is also my ex-wife who is about to obtain a divorce certificate. Did you remove me from the blacklist on her account? This is the first time you have contacted me since that blind date." My initial anger was transmuted into exasperation by Ouyang Ting's low and taunting words. "After so many years, do you now find amusement in dredging up the past?" The individual with whom I had my inaugural blind date was Ouyang Ting. However, when he immediately professed his desire to marry me, I was thoroughly unnerved. I beheld him extract the physical examination report, IQ test results, genetic analysis data, and I promptly took my leave. Upon returning home, I engaged in a vociferous altercation with my parents and adamantly forbade them from arranging any further blind dates for me. I had not anticipated that, many years later, I would catch Ouyang Ting in the act of infidelity. "So, are we not settling old scores now but rather initiating new ones?" Ouyang Ting's voice reverted to its dispassionate timbre. "Lu Miaoling and I have already submitted a divorce application. She and I have severed all ties. She has availed herself of your marital property. I fully empathize with you regarding this matter. Is that all?" I was astounded by his tone. Ouyang Ting remained silent for a spell before responding to me. "Wrath is deleterious to the liver. Drink copious amounts of warm water." I comprehend. I understand completely. I cannot expect a straight-laced, workaholic male to decipher my veiled hints. "Ouyang Ting, I aspire to collaborate with you to safeguard my interests from being encroached upon. I came clean. Can we assist each other? I shall assist you in extricating yourself from those convoluted debts, and you shall assist me in playing the role of the antagonist in dealing with my ex-husband. The benefit you stand to gain is greater than mine." Naturally, I was aware that he had already initiated the process with Lu Miaoling. A wealthy family such as the Ouyang clan must have signed a prenuptial agreement with Lu Miaoling. Therefore, the principal beneficiary will indubitably be me. I was on the verge of calculating for Ouyang Ting the benefits I could confer upon his company when Ouyang Ting abruptly declared, "In truth, I can assist you, provided that you marry me." Were it not for Ouyang Feng's solemn tone, I would have suspected that he was jesting with me. After so many years, why does this fellow still adhere to this refrain? I have not yet divorced. I suddenly perceived that this was also a ruse, to enlist the aid of the mistress's husband in obtaining a divorce. If Gutingfei were cognizant of this, that expression would assuredly afford me a sense of vindication. "I shall assist you. Then wait until I have divorced, and we can deliberate on marriage. For the present, inform me of how you can assist me." After divesting myself of my love-struck mindset, I was thoroughly lucid. Nothing is of greater import than myself. This marriage must be dissolved in a clean and expeditious manner. Moreover, it must place me in an impregnable position. Ouyang Ting's tone remained highly businesslike. "Let us convene and discuss the matter in detail." When I encountered Ouyang Ting, I discovered that this chap had not altered in the slightest. He is truly handsome. However, the moment he opened his mouth, I felt an irresistible urge to flee on the spot. "We shall wed after you have finalized the divorce agreement. Here is my physical examination report and an introduction to my assets. Peruse them. Allow me to complete the divorce first, and then we can converse." I can affirm that my attitude was one of utmost sincerity. However, Ouyang Ting summarily rejected me. "During the prior blind date, you also stated that you would return and consider the matter, and then you blocked me. You also enlisted the elders to convey to me that we were ill-suited." Ouyang Ting assumed a negotiating stance and proffered to me the marriage agreement that he had drafted at some indeterminate time. I inwardly shrieked, so crafty. How did he divine that I was poised to burn the bridge after crossing it once more? In fact, I am resolute in my intention to marry this time. Once you have divorced, your family will assuredly urge you to remarry. Then you will be arranged to marry anew. With Gutingfei as your ex-husband, will you and your family still repose trust in your own judgment in selecting a man? Ouyang Ting rapped on the marriage agreement lying on the table and pushed the document before me. "You may peruse it, the marriage agreement." Is not the marriage agreement in the business realm merely a mathematical conundrum for clearly apportioning money and shares? I surmised that Ouyang Ting's intention in meeting me on this occasion was far more blatant in its mockery of me than in its proffered cooperation. I snatched up the agreement in a fit of pique, and my eyes widened in astonishment. Are you proposing to transfer all the property under your name to my name? Is your group on the verge of bankruptcy tomorrow? Do I resemble a scapegoat? Ouyang Ting inhaled deeply. Shen Qian, I am bestowing upon you all my wealth. You aver that I appear cunning. This is my demonstration of sincerity in marrying you. I awaited your graduation from college and prepared for 3 years to propose to you for the first time. However, you promptly married Gu Tingfei, and I wed Lu Miaoling as arranged by my family. Now it has been proven that I cannot heed my family's dictates, and you are ill-suited to select a partner for yourself. By marrying you, I can merely ensure that I hold affection for you and will not engage in infidelity during the marriage, and you may expend your money as you please. I possess nothing further. Are you amenable? I may expend my money as I please? I listened to Ouyang Ting's confession and felt utterly bewildered. What do you mean by waiting until I graduated from college? Did not Ouyang Ting and I partake in an coming-of-age ceremony when I was 15 years old? He was invited by my family to be my dance partner. I had not set eyes on him since then. Yes. Ouyang Ting seemed to be afflicted with a headache and placed his hand on his temple. So, are you willing to marry me? I shall respond to you after I have obtained my divorce. I gritted my teeth and curbed my inclination to nod. When Gu Tingfei contacted me again, my attitude became highly amenable. I concluded the call, and the other party declined. He stated that he was cognizant of your affair, and would not permit Lu Miaoling to escape unscathed. Shen Qian, what did you impart to Ouyang Ting? Do not credit his calumnies against Miaoling. He is not a man. He failed to concern himself with Miaoling when she encountered difficulties and also maltreated her. Gu Tingfei bellowed wrathfully at the other end of the line. I took a cursory glance and emitted 2 perfunctory hums. If Ouyang Ting were not a man, it would be even more felicitous. You would not have to consort with him, and you could also commandeer all his property. Is there anything more desirable in the world than this? As long as my husband remains alive, I can commence inheriting his estate. I sense that Gu Tingfei's actions are conducive to augmenting Ouyang Ting's standing in my estimation. By the way, how are you faring with the project that my cousin introduced to you? In the past, for my sake, numerous family projects were entrusted to Gu Tingfei. Gu Tingfei believed that he was merely vaunting his own achievements at a tender age. I am performing admirably. It is merely that your brother's project is expanding at an exponential rate. The larger the project, the greater the demand for supplementary funds. I recollected the funds on the company's ledgers that had been pilfered by Gu Tingfei, and I smiled. Then you must redouble your efforts. This project cannot be abandoned, otherwise the company's entire year's labor will be in vain. I exhorted him to toil arduously as in the past. However, I was no longer the same as before. When I detected his embarrassed tone, I took the initiative to broach the topic of money. One moment, please. Gu Tingfei ultimately could no longer contain himself. Cici, did you not previously mention that your fixed deposit was on the verge of maturing? Presently, the company is making additional investments. Would it be convenient for you? Convenient for what? I laughed. Had Gu Tingfei finally realized that he had depleted the company's coffers? If you have funds at present, I believe your brother's project can be executed more proficiently. I am disinclined to relinquish it facilely now. Could you transfer some funds to me forthwith? Why did I not previously discern that this man was deranged? Did he not realize that we were in the process of divorcing? Still borrowing money? What on earth is he thinking? I terminated the call directly, opened WeChat, and commenced sending messages. Another call came in, and I inadvertently disconnected you. Has the company's funds been exhausted? Why do I recall that you informed me 2 months ago that you intended to transfer 2 million to me? Chat recordings are no longer regarded as evidence. WeChat chat records are the vantage point for seizing the initiative. I have no funds at hand, or I could return home and solicit funds from my parents on your behalf. How much do you require? Gu Tingfei had been displaying a chat box with the indication that he was typing. When he learned that I was returning to my parents' abode, he immediately replied to my message. No, I shall devise a solution myself. Men truly prize their dignity. I dialed Ouyang Ting and disdainfully remarked. Cease sending me bird's nest and shark fin. No one courts a woman in this manner. I regarded the 7 or 8 boxes of items that had just been delivered to the house and was rendered speechless. When a man is youthful, he is highly forthright. Once he matures and endeavors to court a woman, does he commence galloping down the path of health preservation? It is premature to send me the ginseng essence reputed to prolong life. What do you fancy? Naturally, I desire you to assume control of Gu Tingfei's company. Gu Tingfei currently lacks funds for the project. If he cannot obtain funds from me, he will assuredly seek external sources. With Lu Miaoling in the picture, Gu Tingfei is now ensconced in a veritable mountain of gold and silver, yet it is insufficient to satiate his paramour. On the one hand, the company is bereft of adequate funds, and on the other, there is Lu Miaoling, his inamorata. As his wife, I will no longer furnish him with funds to flaunt. Gu Tingfei will indubitably seek external succor. I previously felt sympathy for his dignity, but now I yearn to flay him alive. Do you wish me to inject funds into Gu Tingfei's company? Ouyang Ting inquired of me. I smiled and said, no, I shall provide the funds. I aspire to acquire this company in your name. From the outset, this company was a business venture that Gu Tingfei and I had resolved to pursue after burning the midnight oil. He desires you to thrive, so why should I expend my money and energy to assist him in fulfilling his amorous aspirations? If a person is sullied, you need not concern yourself with him. If the money is tainted, it can be laundered and remains highly serviceable. I can establish a new company for you. Regardless of the magnitude you prefer, I can bestow it upon you. Ouyang asseverated without hesitation. I sighed. Is this the unadulterated possessiveness of the affluent? This is the reason I had previously been disinclined to marry into a wealthy family, for money can truly procure whatever one desires. Ouyang, you cannot be so vulgar. You incessantly implore me to establish a company. Do you intend to exhaust me to death? I aspire to rely on my own efforts to reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to me. Do you apprehend? I do not understand. Ouyang was obstinate yet resolute. Then I desire this, I solely desire this, I simply desire it without rhyme or reason. Do you understand now? I resolved not to coerce him and simply stated directly, will you accede to my request? Ouyang remained silent at the other end of the line for several minutes before stating, I cannot refuse you. A week later I received word from my cousin. Gu Tingfei had embarked on a new project and made a substantial investment therein. Owing to the existence of a major project, I ceased providing him with funds, and thus he could only toil assiduously. Lu Miaoling was unable to ensnare him and took advantage of me, and thus she incessantly engaged in petty annoyances directed at me. I received several apology text messages from Lu Miaoling, all of which were highly diverting. I apologize, Shen Qian. I was unaware that my interaction with Gu Tingfei would incense you to such an extent. I presumed that you would empathize with me as a woman. Shen Qian. Gu Tingfei tended to me. I merely visited the hospital to attend to him out of gratitude. Do not refrain from visiting the hospital to see Gu Tingfei on my account. Is that agreeable? Gu Tingfei spoke of you on several occasions in my presence. Do you not feel compassion for him? Gazing upon the bruises on his body, I truly pity him for enduring so much. I merely laughed. Exploiting the guise of a paramour, she squandered my money, and now Lu Miaoling is still dispatching these equivocal text messages. Witness the bruises on his body? That implies that Gu Tingfei disrobed. As a woman, I merely desire Lu Miaoling to vacate the premises, and I harbor not an iota of sympathy for her. Thus, on the day I was eligible to obtain the divorce certificate, I dispatched a message to Lu Miaoling. If you wish to converse, then let us do so. Hilton Hotel at 1 p.m. After sending the message, I crouched at home and partook of the nourishing soup that my mother had prepared for me. My mother chuckled when she beheld me clutching the phone and inquired, what ails you recently? You have been consuming tonics throughout the day and are as flushed as a cooked crab. I extended my hand and caressed my cheek, gnawing on the large New Zealand apple that Ouyang had someone deliver, and laughed. I must be more solicitous of myself. Besides, I am still youthful. Perhaps when I am in better spirits, I can conceive a child. After being wed to Gu Tingfei for so many years, he invariably averred that he would sire a child once the company was stabilized. Now that we are divorcing, I can have a child in whatever manner I please. It is felicitous to have a child. Gu Tingfei telephoned me and informed me that you have been incensed with him of late. Since you unhesitatingly chose him, you ought to lead a felicitous life with him. I have heard that his company has been faring admirably recently. You should also pay heed to it and refrain from merely awaiting him at home as in the past. If a woman lacks a say in the company, she will gradually forfeit her voice at home. If my mother had imparted this to me previously, I would have deemed her overly loquacious. However, now I cannot help but bestow a kiss upon my aged mother's cheek. Mother, of course I shall take the initiative. Naturally, I have no desire for this man, Gu Tingfei, but there is no necessity to apprise her of the divorce. I am apprehensive that if she becomes cognizant of Lu Miaoling, she will brandish a 40-meter-long blade to assail Gu Tingfei. When I arrived at the company, Gu Tingfei was in a state of perturbation. Boss, this document must be transferred today, and this. Gu Tingfei, have you forgotten that we are slated to obtain the divorce certificate today? I leaned against the office door and enunciated coldly. Gu Tingfei was momentarily stupefied, and the secretary promptly pivoted and departed with great astuteness. What divorce certificate? Gu Tingfei regarded my countenance, which was highly intriguing. I smiled. We can proceed to obtain our divorce certificates today. Wife, did we not concur to calm down beforehand? Gu Tingfei approached and endeavored to draw me into the office. I uttered Dan Mei, and precluded him from touching me. Gu Tingfei discerned that I merely maintained a smile yet declined to close the door, as if he had just apprehended the gravity of the issue. He surmised that I was throwing a tantrum because I had not returned home for over a month and had not even deigned to call me. I laughed. Let us depart now. Gu Tingfei was agitated. Wife, I asseverated that Miaoling and I are innocent. I bestowed the house upon her merely because I was rendering her a favor. Are you aware of how Miaoling's ex-husband treated her? Had it been me, Miaoling would have been left with no alternative but to perish. You were formerly such a benevolent individual. Why can you not empathize with Miaoling? Gu Tingfei's visage was replete with bewilderment. When he proffered these reasons, he regarded me with a disappointed mien. Because I do not empathize with her. Is that not a reason? Divorce, and you may go and take excellent care of her. I tapped my phone and reminded him, you can initiate the divorce proceedings at 9 o'clock. Let us be on our way. I do not desire a divorce. Gu Tingfei retreated to his office chair and seated himself. I am cognizant that it is arduous to awaken from the throes of love, unless one awakens as I did, encounters a scoundrel, and unseals one's ran and due meridians. Otherwise, individuals afflicted with severe symptoms such as he will merely covet the bliss of having 2 wives. Divorce. Otherwise, I shall utilize the family's shares to compel my cousin to rescind your company's project directly. The company has invested all its resources in this project presently, correct? Once my brother annuls it, he can employ liquidated damages to indemnify. You will have to bear a colossal price. The company may even face bankruptcy. At that juncture, you will truly be unable to assist Lu Miaoling. I placed my hands on my hips and retrieved the documents with great elegance and composure. Gu Tingfei beheld that the legal representative of the company, and the new project he had just assumed was me. The entirety of his expression was highly arresting. Surprise, incredulity, shame, and then wrath. Why did you deplete the company's coffers? Have you resorted to any underhanded means to obtain a divorce? Gu Tingfei was so incensed that he bounded up and down. No. Pray, examine it meticulously. I smiled slyly. My project is entirely legal. The one who drained the company's funds is you. If you are inclined to assist Lu Miaoling, then do so with all your might. The company is mine. Gu Tingfei was so exasperated with me that he commenced smashing objects hither and thither to vent his spleen. Observing him glaring at me with bloodshot eyes, I suspected that he was on the verge of biting me. However, he did not. He maintained that I had wronged him and misconstrued Lu Miaoling. Sooner or later, I would discover that I was the one who was wholly in the wrong. I shrugged. If you lack funds, you will truly be unable to assist Lu Miaoling. I trust that you can then share the vicissitudes with her. Gu Tingfei berated me. You conceive everything to be so sordid, Shan Qian. Are you now menacing me with my career? Why are you so intractable? When I toiled assiduously outside, you were a full-time wife at home. Have you ever contemplated my arduousness? Do you apprehend how fatigued I am? Even Miaoling can fathom that I embarked on a business venture. Yet now you are threatening me with my career. Very well, let us divorce. I prize you. We have reached this pass as a couple, and it is all attributable to you. I opened the door with the sole intention of mortifying Gu Tingfei. To sever the Gordian knot. Incensing him is the swiftest means to effect a divorce. Soon, the divorce proceedings were concluded. I regarded the diminutive notebook with great satisfaction. You will rue this. When the time arrives, I trust that you will not return to implore me. I laughed. Very well, I will never prostrate myself to beseech you when the time comes. She will not have the opportunity to regret it. Ouyang Ting materialized at some indeterminate point and was awaiting me at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The instant I completed speaking, the trunk of the Maybach swung open directly, and the vehicle laden with blue enchantress roses exuded the aroma of opulence. Wow, pure blue enchantress. A young girl beside me exclaimed directly. A wealthy individual. I truly yearn to befriend him. I hope that when I divorce, there will also be a rich person such as this to celebrate my singleness. I beheld the young couples regarding us with complex and anticipatory gazes. This mortifying and sanguinary scenario rendered me so abashed that I nearly excavated a 3-bedroom and 1 living room with my toes. Gu Tingfei's eyes darted back and forth between me and Ouyang Ting until Ouyang Ting approached and proffered me a thermos. I have just stewed the bird's nest today. Partake of it. Shen Qian, you have actually committed adultery? You are devoid of shame. Gu Tingfei was so enraged that he endeavored to charge forward. However, he was restrained by Ouyang Ting's bodyguard. Observing him going berserk with agitation, I felt an intense sense of euphoria. I had endured all the vicissitudes previously, and now it was his turn to experience them all. Are you prepared? I inquired of Ouyang Ting. Ouyang Ting nodded, retrieved the tablet from the secretary, and handed it to me. I activated the camera and beheld the hotel room that I had reserved, which was highly animated. Gu Tingfei beside me was still fulminating, and I was on the verge of presenting him with the tablet. In truth, I desired to project this wondrous drama onto the square monitor, but it was inappropriate. I could only heave a sigh of regret. Regarding the captivating surveillance footage in the hotel, I handed the tablet to Shan Tong, who was still vociferating. Behold! Employ those eyes besmirched with dog feces to perceive with pellucid clarity what manner of woman you have been assiduously assisting. Shan Ting glowered at me with fury until I thrust the tablet into his face. He ultimately noticed that the video was about the pure and immaculate, pitiable and helpless goddess he had been incessantly yearning for. I shall abscond with Miaoling. Balderdash. Miaoling has been in contact with me, and we have agreed to wed later. Miaoling, I have transferred 30 million to you, and you pledged that you would return home with me to meet my parents. On the large screen, Lu Miaoling was encircled by 4 or 5 men in a hotel room. The men initially argued, then cursed, and ultimately engaged in fisticuffs. Those men ultimately exploded. Miaoling, are you truly contacting me solely to defraud me of my money? Speak. I sold my father's house and hastened to you upon receiving your text message. Why do you still have so many men? Gu Tingfei gaped at the screen stupidly. What is transpiring? Miaoling. Miaoling averred that she would seek me out when she encountered difficulties. She did not dare to trust anyone. She solely believed that I could assist her. I advanced and patted Gu Tingfei on the shoulder. How much money did Lu Miaoling solicit from you? Millions, correct? TSK. In comparison to these individuals, you have disbursed less. You are in this state divorced. How can you vie with these men? Ouyang Ting was beside me and assisted me in delivering the coup de grace. Lu Miaoling has long been addicted to gambling. I discovered this when we wed, and thus I promptly initiated the divorce proceedings with her. For such an extended period, you are the one who has been defrauded the least by her. Fortunately, you do not possess an abundance of wealth. I added. In comparison with the other men ensnared by Lu Miaoling, Shen Tong can truly be regarded as a minnow. The derision in my tone was not in the least concealed. Gu Tingfei was released by the bodyguards, and he witnessed Lu Miaoling being encircled by several men and ultimately fleeing the hotel in tears. You may tarry a moment. Lu Miaoling will arrive presently. Ouyangting addressed Gu Tingfei. If you wed immediately, it will not squander time. I regarded Ouyangting, who was as crafty as an old fox, and felt that he was truly anticipating Gu Tingfei and Lu Miaoling's nuptials. Regarding Gu Tingfei, who was utterly dumbfounded, I merely felt a sense of pathos. He had relinquished everything he possessed to defray the girl's gambling debts, only to discover that he was but a trifling pebble. Let us depart. I said to Ouyangting. Wife, do not leave. I have erred, I have truly erred. Gu Tingfei rushed forward to embrace me but was directly obstructed by Ouyangting. At this juncture, Lu Miaoling was escorted over, and when she espied Ouyangting, she hastened over immediately. Ting Wu, I have erred. I pledge not to venture out again. I will not dare to repeat my actions. I beseech your forgiveness. Lu Miaoling failed to even notice that the person she had pushed aside was Gu Tingfei. She clasped Ouyangting's thigh and commenced weeping. Domestic violence? Persecution? Lu Miaoling, do you desire to receive a lawyer's letter? Ouyangting shoved her away directly, and the bodyguard promptly stepped forward to haul her away. No, Ting, you did not strike me. It is the individuals outside who are spouting nonsense, woo-woo. Do not divorce me. I truly require you. Lu Miaoling was midway through her histrionics when she ultimately detected me beside her. She was startled, then glanced sideways and beheld Gu Tingfei with a livid countenance. And the men who had been in the hotel just now were also brought hither by Ouyangting's minions. They had heard Lu Miaoling's words with great clarity, and I nearly retrieved the melon seeds from my pocket and commenced cracking them. However, unfortunately, Ouyangting did not afford me this opportunity. She and I have been divorced for an extended period. Which of you is willing to assume custody? After all, I also plan to remarry. Then he drew me into the vehicle. I wed Ouyangting, and he transferred all the property under his name to my name. My parents were extremely disillusioned with Gu Tingfei and acquiesced to my expeditious remarriage. From that point onward, I merely knew that Gu Tingfei had gone bankrupt and absconded abroad. As for Lu Miaoling, it is rumored that she has completely embarked on a career as a socialite, defrauding people of their money to defray her gambling debts. And I am toiling assiduously to carve out a niche for myself in the business of Mr. Shen. I will never again be a witless woman besotted with love. The end of the full text.